Hi everyone. This month I have joining me, as you can all see, Mr. Hassan Khan. Hassan, how are you?
I am very good, mate. I'm sat in the office. I'd like to be out on the bank. It is crisp out there, sunny, and yeah, maybe we should have done this in a couple of days where I will be hopefully on the bank and catching a few. Fingers crossed, eh? How are you, mate? You well?
Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, you're right. The weather, we're proper into autumn now, aren't we? It's although it's, I think, what are we? Yesterday was, I think, the official start of autumn, but
Think
yeah, the
think
weather's
it was.
definitely looking promising.
Mate,
So
switched in like a day, didn't it? It was ridiculous. All of a sudden, it was boiling hot over on the weekend, and then all of a sudden, crack! Here we go. Here's autumn. Welcome.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had that 20 something odd degrees a couple of days
Yeah,
ago. Was it Sunday?
yeah.
And yeah, now we're well. I think it's nearly heating time. It's certainly heated blanket time for me in the bivvy. That's for sure.
Oh, mate, heated blanket. Is that all right? No, not yet. You can hold off, mate. You look hardcore.
I don't know. I think I'm just getting on a bit now. I like my, mind you. To be fair, I could use the heated blanket in the middle of summer. I like my comforts.
Okay, okay, one of them. That's all right, mate.
So Hassan, I suppose we should start at the beginning, really. Um, in terms of fishing itself, is that your main way to earn a living? Is it from actually being on the bank fishing? So like a pro angler?
I wouldn't say that's my main way of making a living. I'd say it's a massive percentage of the job that I do. Obviously, work over at Capital, where I'm sort of marketing and media director. So I do pretty much all the planning, the sort of producing, along with the team that I've got. We've got Finley, Todd Hunter, who's one of the cameramen, a couple of other cameramen. We've got James and another cameraman starting very soon. There's a number of different sort of businesses under the sort of Capital, if you like, umbrella. There's obviously the competition sites that a lot of people have played and know of. We recently acquired a working partnership with Greg at RG Baits, so there's that bait side of stuff. And then there's other things that I'm going to say are coming. People would have also seen like Hippopotamus clothing and things like that. So there's lots of different companies under that umbrella, and then the media and the marketing, alongside Jamie Tech, as people know him, and Pictures. We sort of deliver the strategy and then roll out. So I do get the chance to go fishing and film and be on camera and do all the really good stuff.
Right.
But I also work sort of extensively, which is where I am now, sort of planning everything, developing a strategy, and sort of managing the team of the people to deliver that as well. Probably more now. I'd probably say it's 50, it's less than 50-50 now. I'm probably more more so behind the scenes, and then probably 40% of the time in front of the camera. I really like the balance, and in terms of like a workplace and things going on, it's mental, but it's yeah, it's wicked. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a great balance of like family life, fishing, and then actual work where you feel like you're sort of developing, if you like, your
Yeah.
skills a bit more. So yeah, I can't complain, mate. Very lucky, very happy.
So what was your route to get where you are now to be with Capital? What? Because obviously, I think
Yeah.
one of the things I know you from being most famous is like the Nash podcasts. But
Yeah.
what was your life prior to that as well, and then into the Nash bit?
I don't think anything I've done has been a traditional route, mate, in any form of the way. I think like timing and how things have developed have played into things sort of massively. I wouldn't say there's any specific skills or training or goal that I had to do what I do now. It's just very organically, like trundled along, and almost sounds a bit romantic, but sort of fate meant to be sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Pretty much I've just gone through every door that's opened. I sort of started, believe it or not, as a tennis pro, so I played a lot of tennis, and in
Wow.
amidst, yeah, mental. I know, I'm not very tall. I've got little T-Rex arms, but that's where I started. Like in Leicester, I used to fish. In and around Leicester. Obviously, I won't go through the boring story of sort of catching a roach on the canal and all that, but very much like did that progression when I started driving, sort of fished around the Nene Valley region, Ringstead, Bluebells, the likes of.
Right.
So I was always into fishing. Unlike anybody else in my family, I was the only one who was sort of obsessed by it. Then that fishing led to, whilst playing tennis abroad or wherever I was, if ever there was any free time, I'd go and sort of sample whatever fishing was there. So I've been well fortunate to like do a bit of sailfish fishing in the Indian Ocean, a bit of GT fishing, barramundi. I've been really lucky in that sense. If ever there was any downtime, I'd have a rod, I'd go and target fish wherever I was. Always been obsessed by them, every species. Could be John Wilson, could be Matt Hayes, whoever it was that influenced me at the time. Any species, different types of fishing, loved it all. Did like really, really sort of filled my boots during that period of time. Then finished playing tennis because of the nature of sort of tennis in terms of the tour and the monetary sort of value of stuff and everything. I sort of set up a coaching business. I had a network of people from tennis that I knew, set up a coaching business. And then really during that time did a lot of fishing when I wasn't, when you're coaching when people have got free time. So you're in the evenings, you're on the weekends. The rest of the time, normally when the banks were quieter, I was out fishing. So I did a lot of fishing in that time back home, carp fishing, which is where my sort of tennis business was. I had a really good balance. Honestly, like the glory days, you know what I mean? Like in terms of you're young, you've got a job, but you still haven't got responsibilities. So did a lot of fishing. And then at that time, it was still relatively sort of editorial based. And I did a few bits of writing, sort of catch report in session bits for Carpology and other sort of like internet style bait companies and mags that sort of asked me and sent me bits sort of really organically. I didn't sort of go and look for it. But they'd sort of, because I was fishing your bluebells and complexes like that, there was sort of a bit of a hub of who was fishing. Do you know what I mean? In the time, like the Don was on, you'd have people like Dave, like you have loads of people in and around that were sort of the guys, if you like. So I did a little bit of writing, and that led to sort of more involvement on a freelance basis with Carpology. So a lot of the stuff that I did early was like the top 10 articles. They would go online, as well as some of them the top 10, I don't know, whatever, distance casting tips or whatever. And then from that, very quickly, the sort of transformation came where everything went from sort of editorial writing in mags to digital and to sort of video. And I think that switch, I remember Abby from Carpology and Joe basically sort of approaching me, seeing a video I did and saying, would you be happy doing some product related videos for us? And it was pretty relaxed. I used to send product out, I used to do a video, send it back, happy days. Like it was a sort of freelance ad hoc basis, and that sort of grew. Obviously that was a part of the sort of funding principle for the mag. A lot of brands would pay money to have sponsorship packages and videos done. And then from Carpology, I remember being in a bit of I'd say like a bit of a crossroads in terms of like life. The tennis company was brill. It was running itself to some extent. The coaches were in place. I met Laura, who's my current wife, and I was pretty much toying with Laura's from Manchester, I'm from Leicester. Should I move up? Should she move down? And I was like, realistically, it's easier for me to move up. So I ended up moving up to Manchester, which meant managing that coaching stuff was very difficult. So I made the decision to sell all that. And I was at a fortunate position because I sold all that and it did very well. But I was like, what to do? And I didn't want to, and I remember it distinctly, I didn't want to work in fishing and it kill my like love and passion for it because it becomes a job. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was sort of in a bit of a crossroads whilst moving up here, thinking, do I just start another coaching company up here, which is I know and I have contacts and could do, but I had the luxury of a little bit of time from selling that business, and I sort of sat there and thought, I'll talk to Carpology. I'll see if I can get more involved. I'll see if there's an opportunity to maybe do something a bit more sort of concrete and a bit more sort of more of a job. And I did that, and I sort of was able to sort of make a distinction in my head between sort of my fishing, if you like, and then work fishing. And they didn't sort of, sounds horrible, but they didn't sort of pollute each other. I never wanted to, you know what I mean? I never wanted to feel like I'm being dragged out or having to do it because I just love it so much. I wouldn't want to lose that. And I didn't. And then from that point, I remember distinctly saying, look, Joe, I had a meeting with Joe and Rob from Carpology. And I said, look, boys, I'm all in here. Like I'm gonna look to sort of pursue this. What opportunities and avenues are there? And I remember them saying, look, like we've got X opportunity here, or there's an opportunity that's arisen with a retailer based in Norfolk, Angling Direct at the time, where they're looking for somebody, which I think, because they were good friends with them, they're from Norfolk as well, where you do well. And I think from that point, and sort of taking that first job there, it all just then sort of amalgamated into one. I spent a number of years, I think it was 4 years at Angling Direct. That grew, that sort of, I don't know, for me, I was able to strike that balance, be on the bank, as well as sort of produce content, video related, live stuff. And then I think realistically, the end of that time, things changed there. It became more sort of corporate based. I'm going to say the C word, and fishing for me has never been really that. It's always been fishing is fishing, and once you're in the industry, you sort of know what I mean. If you know, you know. It is corporate, but it's not corporate at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was time to sort of, I think for me personally, sort of move on. And then the opportunity at Nash arose. Obviously through my time previously, I'd networked a lot of sort of people. I'd sort of made really good friends with a lot of sort of the anglers, the relevant brands and people like that. And at that time we just had our first child, our daughter, and it was sort of like family wise, the Angling Direct stuff was mental. Like I was here, there and everywhere covering the country. It was a lot. And I was very conscious, and always have been, of sort of carp fishing being inherently selfish, and sort
Yeah.
of you spend a lot of time.
What was the role at Angling Direct then? So what was the actual job that you took there?
So I took social media manager essentially
Oh,
at the
okay,
start,
okay.
and that amalgamated into sort of a bigger role around sort of organising social corporate responsibility, things
Right,
around sort of general media. That would be across all sorts of marketing, and generally it sort of branched out as everything grew, more stores,
right,
bigger web
okay.
presence, etc. So
Yeah,
that's how I started there. And then, as I said, that sort of timing wise, and the changes and family life and striking a balance, sort of came into sort of where Nash fitted in really, and sort of I moved over to Nash to obviously host the podcast, which means, and I remember Alan and Kev being like so really really quite nice in terms of they didn't need to do it, but they were like, look, manage your own diary, as long as you deliver the podcast, we're happy for you to run with it in terms
right.
of however you want. And that freedom really appealed to me. The management of my own diary with a young family, that all worked brilliantly well. And I had some fantastic years doing that, met some incredible people and had some incredible experiences. Did more filming for Nash, got more involved in the sort of latter years. And then really sort of, I wouldn't know how, I think it sounds again like really sort of romantic, but I think with me, there always comes a point where I feel like I don't want to just sit there and coast. I really don't like that
Right.
feeling. I don't know what it is in me, but I don't like it. I like to sort of, if I feel like it's sort of coasty, I can do it for a bit, but it's not me just to sit there. And I think the podcast had run its course. There were ideas to sort of ramp it up and ramp it down, but at the same time, obviously, an opportunity rose at Capital where I could probably have a lot more involvement over a lot more different things, and
Yeah,
develop myself a bit more, maybe be a bit more pushed. That coincided with the family getting a bit older. Yeah, organically, I sort of walked through a door that was open and then moved over to Capital, where I've been for the past year and a half. I think I've been there a year and a half now, maybe a bit.
right.
I don't know,
Okay.
but yeah. So that's pretty much how it went. But there's no textbook in any of that. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no kids learn to do this and you'll get this position and do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think things are very different now in terms of the industry and people getting into it. But I think because of the timing and the sort of network that you develop, opportunities that have presented themselves to me have sort of come very organically. And if it's felt right, then I've invariably gone for it.
Yeah. So how long were you with Nash for? It was quite a good few years, wasn't it?
I think I did the best part of 4 years there. I'm a 4 year man, 4 years at AD, 4 years at Nash. Yeah, so the best part of 4 years, yeah, I did there. So as I said, initially it was just a podcast, which I say just a podcast, but it was an episode every week on YouTube and available to sort of download. And then I did the Drop series and a few more filming projects in amongst that as well. So it was good to sort of develop on that level, understand the company, and it is a mega company and a great place to work. Those lads are awesome. It's what fishing is. It's a family. Like, it's good banter. It's hard work. You do a lot of hours, and you do a lot more than you probably would do for the equivalent in a normal working environment. But you don't feel like you are, because you're talking to absolute sound lads who are like-minded, and you have a really good time doing it.
So yeah, so I'm guessing in terms of that, then probably everything you've done, even from the tennis side of it, none of it's been like just 9 to 5 stuff, has it? It's all you've had to be fairly flexible, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely not 9 to 5. It's never been me. That sort of monotony and coasting, I said it before, like, if I sit into a slot like that, I don't like it. It makes me feel uneasy. I've never been one for sort of that. Do you know what I mean? I think I've always been one, and I guess I can only put it down to my parents. They've been very supportive in terms of everything I've done. It's been very different in terms of what I've done. But even from a young age, they've always said, if you love whatever you love, try and make that your job, in terms of, you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. Like, you don't want to be unhappy. And I think we all do it, don't we? Like, your first couple of jobs, I remember working in a call center, and like, looking at like the bloke next door who's like 40 odd, he's been doing it for like 25 years, and he looks miserable as sin, and thinking, Jesus, I don't want that. I don't want that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've
Yeah,
always sort of not been traditional or textbook in terms of that, but I've always wanted that feeling of progression, that sort of lack of feeling of just sitting there doing nothing. I don't know where that's from. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I really don't know where that's from, but that's definitely in me, in terms of even what I do sort of now. Like, I always am looking to like try and progress either myself, the company, or whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just,
yeah,
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 my mindset.
absolutely. So I suppose really, being as I'm interviewing the interviewer,
Yeah.
um, the Nash side of things, how did you choose, or how did you decide on who you were going to interview, given the fact, like you say, it was a weekly thing? I mean, what was your, and also what research did you do on those individuals?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, I was very fortunate in like the network of lads that I had around the industry. So research, obviously, you can jump on Google, or you can get whatever corresponding book that the person may or may not have written. But I think the real research and the real crux of it was basically speaking to other people who'd been on venues that you're going to talk about with said angler, or their friends, or people who are associates of them who might not be in the public eye, and you'd get the real gems there. Do you know what I mean? You'd get the sort of the stuff that people want to see. They don't want to see sort of a public persona that they put out. They want the stuff behind the person, and what really makes them tick, and makes them who they are. So a lot of my research was that. I sort of had a format around, don't know, I sort of always thought about the other side of the coin, me being in that situation, and the first part, trying to sort of make people comfortable in sharing that side of them,
Yeah,
and then really try and sort of dig deeper as things went on. So there was always a little bit of flow in terms of initiating, if you like, people into them, because as much as I know them, I know and they know there's a camera pointing at them, and that makes a world of difference. Like,
yeah,
we chatted off camera very differently to how we're chatting here, and
yeah,
over the course of
absolutely.
this, it will change, because you forget that it's there. But for people that you have a different conversation. But my aim was to try and get that same conversation that we have at the start before cameras into the podcast.
Right. So, so in terms, sorry,
Sorry, man, I got the phone call.
in terms of what you're doing now with Capital, um, is it true that all the competitions are fixed?
Yeah, mate, 100% rigged. I sort of take bribes, and then whoever pays me the most, we went, no, they're not at all fixed. Like, it is so random. It is so sort of, yeah, how can you say, like, it is your classic game of chance, isn't it? None of them are rigged, couldn't be. Obviously, we're stringently checked. The gambling commission's there. But you know what it's like with people, prizes, high stakes, mega vans, awesome comps. Like, people are always gonna moan or say that it is rigged, but no, it most certainly is not in any way rigged.
I only ask because obviously I've seen pictures doing his bit about, yes,
Yeah.
it's all fixed, and but that's, I suppose that's social media and fishing, isn't it? And certainly carp fishing. I mean, um, everybody loves to hate, So do you, over the years in the roles that you've done, and obviously you're quite comfortable, or you're very comfortable in front of camera. Um, uh, have you had to put up with much criticism and the sort of hatred, and have you dealt with that?
Yeah, it's a very personal thing. I know people deal with it in a certain way, but I think everybody who's everybody out there that's put themselves out there in front of camera, unfortunately, has probably been the subject of some negativity in some form or regard. Like it sounds horrible and dark, but it's the nature of the beast out there. It shouldn't be, and people have been pushed to extremes of. You've seen cases of suicide and all sorts, but I think the way that I sort of compartmentalize it is it's people venting, and there's a small circle of people that are important to me. Their opinions and stuff matter. Obviously, the opinions of people wider than that matter, but to a lesser extent. And if anybody's going to choose to be negative, I genuinely don't listen to that at all. I've had, and I won't go into it because I don't really give them the airtime, but yeah, everybody has horrible stuff in one regard or another. I've had some awful things like sent through to me, but I'm not going to repeat them or say in what manner they've come through. But I
Wow.
genuinely have, like, and everybody would have. But I think I don't give them airtime. I don't let them sort of perpetuate or try and sort of dim any sort of positivity that I have. I very much concentrate on the positives, and I think in realistic regard, I see it as more of an issue with the person who's commenting rather
Yeah.
than a true feedback or reflection on whatever they've seen.
Yeah. I mean, from what I see, they're looking for that rise. They want you to respond so that they can keep the conversation going. And as you say, that by not giving them the airtime. I remember Nash used to do I think it was Life at Nash, and they
Yeah,
used to read out some of the comments. Alan Blair was told if he turned up at a certain lake again, somebody'd shoot him, and absolutely ridiculous sort of
mate.
situations.
Mate, I have had everything from like mate, I don't take myself seriously at all. Anybody wants to take the piss out my hair, take the piss out my nose, you crack on, mate. I can't help having a massive nose and terrible hair. This is what I am.
At least
But
you've
like
got hair.
in terms of like other stuff, I've had everything from that extreme where it is banter and you take it as banter to somebody saying I know where you live, you X, I'm gonna come and kill you, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like you have everything, but I think, as I said, mate, like I can't let it. You can't let it affect you as much as it's there. Like, and it really doesn't. Like, I've done it for that long and had that sort of experience that it really doesn't. I just section it off, reflection on them, and just try and keep as much as I can as positive as I can. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
somebody's going to
Yeah.
say, "Look, I didn't like that video. I thought you tried to make too much of it, or whatever," 100%. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, or I didn't like that video because you didn't do this, or why didn't you go there, or but fair enough, fair comment. I can't argue with that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if it's just general hate and negativity, I'm not here for it, mate. Life's too short.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. So a lot of the stuff I've seen you do with Capital when you're promoting the competitions, you're obviously quite excited, shall we say, when
Yeah, yeah.
is that something? Does that is that something that you sort of do because that situation warrants it, or is that you? Are you kind of quite an outgoing,
Yeah, mate.
excitable
I'm
person?
very outgoing, mate. Like I think that is me. As much as like I think you see the sort of the biggest buzz, and one of the biggest buzzes in terms of that side of the work is when like ordinary everyday people, and you hear it all the time, and everybody who's in fishing gets messages all the time saying, can you get me this for cheaper, can you get me this for whatever. You are giving somebody an opportunity potentially there to completely change their life, like whether they take the vehicle or whether they take cash. You are tangibly there where somebody is in a position where they want something and maybe never be able to afford it or get it,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
can win it, and you feel that buzz and you see that buzz. And I think very much when you're presenting those adverts, that's what's going through my head. There's an opportunity here for somebody who might never have that opportunity, that amount of money, or might be struggling, and they're able to sort of completely spin that on its head in an instant. That's the beautiful thing about it. And then you get those people come in and collect prizes, or you have those phone calls with them on the live draws that we do, or they text you, and that is a real buzz, because you have genuinely sort of made a massive difference in somebody's life. And I think that really does buzz you up. Plus, also, man, I've got an incredible job. Like, I know your job's not everything, but when you do this type of work and you're in the industry, it is a massive part of your life. So you've got to love what you do, and I do. And I think I can't hold back that enthusiasm for it. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's cringy as, and I'm sure that Finley has to edit the living life out of some of it, and I will talk rubbish for days. But it is genuine, mate. You can't put that on. You couldn't do that many videos or that many promo videos a year and sort of fake it. Do you know what I mean? It'd come across disingenuine, and hopefully it doesn't come across like that.
No, not at all. As I say, you know, you actually have it's like a genuine buzz that you have for it. In terms of the giveaways that you do, or the prizes that you have, how far in advance are you planning what your next sort of, you know, big vehicle's going to be, or is it kind of just done on a very quick sort of thought process?
Nah, there's nothing quick in terms of anything really. We really do like think you're. It's obviously it's a competitive sector, but in terms of where we've got to, I say where we've got to. Pictures and Jamie have sort of built it from day one, and they are very very like on it in terms of upping the levels and making sure that we sort of give the best things in terms of prizes, deals, whatever it is, to our punters. And it's very much sort of built on that same mindset of not coasting and sort of pushing forward. Like this year, for example, in a couple of weeks, we're off to Zayaki for a social. So tricky to get on Lake Zayaki as it is, mega fishing, but a social on there. Vehicles wise, I mean, Pictures is a proper petrol head. Like, when it comes to vehicles, for me, if I'm honest, like, if it's a T6 or a T7, I'm not too fussed. It's a mega vehicle. I'm happy. I'm going fishing in it. But for him, he's really into his cars. So in terms of the selection and the planning in all of that, that's very much his bag. And then that's derived down to me to then sort out the adverts and the stuff to put to you guys in order of sort of entering the competition. So
Right.
all the planning, all the prize selection, we have regular meetings where we have ideas, but all the sort of the sort of van based things, if you like, are all Pictures, mate. And then Jamie deals with all the like actual logistics and the sort of crux of how things work. So how it's easy for
Right.
you to go and get yourself some tickets, how we deal with sort of the handover of it, all that sort of stuff, the logistics, the warehousing, all the prizes, all Jamie. The selection of the prizes, the vehicles, all Mark, and then the sort of gloss on the end of all that hard work is just me. So yeah, I've got the easy job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you script what you're going, or is it just, you know, if you're promoting a van and it's the last, did you just shout it out there? You're not scripting things prior to doing it.
No, I think we chat about like maybe the USP of the vehicle or maybe the USP of the competition, but we've done enough ads now to sort of know the standout things that people would want to know. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not necessarily everyone wants to know that it's got 20-inch wheels or that it's got, do you know what I mean? But people will want to know that you've got like 10,000 instant wins available, or that you win every time you enter, or something like that. I think we've done it enough that it's pretty sort of set in terms of what we know what to focus on.
Right. Okay.
But like there will become a time when we switch up the ads and we do something like different. Do you know what I mean? Because every vehicle, every comp is a little bit different, and we change with that. But generally, it's a chat. We know the vehicle, we know what it's about, what the competition's about. We go from
Okay. So the reason I asked that is because one of the clips that I saw, you do a thing called a 50-50,
yeah.
which is one of your big sort of promotion things for the competition. I just wondered who scripted when you said who wants to go 50-50 on a black tranny.
That was, I think that was me and Finn in the middle of Rother Valley, and I think we'd done 3 or 4 sets of ads or something, and we were like, we need something that's got a bit of a hook that's a little bit edgy, maybe. Classically, as
It
you do,
worked.
probably when you're on the bank with your mates or something, and do you know what I mean? And you've maybe your odds are out for the evening. You sit back, have a bit of food, have a few beers, and have a bit of a laugh. Stuff comes out, doesn't it? That's what fishing's all about. And
Yeah.
yeah, stuff came out. So there you go.
Well, clearly the hook worked because it's the one that I remember the most, and actually made a note of it to ask you about it. I just thought it was, yeah, brilliant. A very memorable bit of marketing.
Yeah, not the most witty, but if it's memorable, I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of obviously you're in front of the camera quite a lot. What's your skills behind it? Obviously, the stuff you're talking about, what you did with Carpology and angling direct. So I'm presuming you're quite a competent videographer as well.
No, no, mate, not at all.
Oh,
Leave that to the proper guys. I can film on a phone. I can do a live video and waffle. But in terms of that, I've been so lucky. Like throughout the course of everything, I've worked with some of the very best videographers. I genuinely we work with them all. So I leave the sort of the skills to those guys. I can take a photo, don't get me wrong. If we're out there and catching some stills, no worries. I can take a really raw sort of video. I can edit a podcast, which is in a studio. But when it comes to being out there, lighting level changes, capturing all the action, no, mate. I've got Finn at the moment at Capital, who's brilliant. I've worked with Lewis Porter at Carpology, who's at Corda now. I've worked with loads of people across the years that are genuinely incredible videographers and definitely have made me look a lot better than I actually am, mate. It's all in the edit. That's what you say, innit? It's all in the
yeah.
edit. So
Oh,
cheers, boys.
yeah, I'm sure they'll appreciate that shout out. So, do you, if I use, say, Briggsy as an example, obviously Steve does his stuff for Nash and he does his films for Nash and has all the videographers there and they do what they do. But he also has his own sort of personal fishing, which he does on his own YouTube. So he takes his cameras with him. And do you do that as well, or is your fishing that's filmed for the company and then your personal fishing is just for you?
It used to be majority private fishing, a bit for the camera, sort of early formative years carpology. Nash again was like private fishing. Had an RK leisure ticket for a long time on Racebury, fished there a lot, loved the place. Amongst other waters that I've got sort of up north nearer me, so I don't have to travel. And then came the family, and really, like as I said before, I wanted to be present. It takes a lot of time filming away as it was. So my private fishing I pretty much completely sacked off. Unless there was a camera there and it was work, I didn't fish. But I got enough of a fix to keep me happy. I
Yeah,
did a couple of sessions like with the old man or like with family friends and stuff that were sort of not related to work. But majority of the time was all work related fishing. But I was lucky because I was in charge of sort of selecting venues. So I'd go to places that you'd want to fish, but you'd have a camera present. And now just in the sort of I'd say the last year, like the family's got a bit older, and I've managed to sort of find a bit of more of a balance in terms of bringing my own fishing in. So I've got a club ticket that's sort of an hour away from me, which I'll start on. Well, I already have started baiting, but haven't fished this autumn. And then I've managed to sort of I'd call it little windows of opportunity. So you have your shoots, and then there'll be like maybe a night here, a couple of nights there, and I've managed to sort of slip into. I've kept my arcade ticket, and various other places that I can sort of slot into at that time. Been to Norton, generally places that are sort of will get a bite that I'm happy sort of fishing,
yeah,
but that you get that little bit of sort of breathing time and sort of space. But the nature of the beast, even if I'm there and sort of catching, I'm normally with a phone getting some sort of reel for work at the same time because the opportunity's there. But I have just come off the back of sort of I basically because of RG baits had a shoot to sort of do using the new bait, the test bait that we're bringing out pretty soon, and free reign. They were like, "Where do you want to go?" And we ended up down sort of Kingsmead. And I haven't fished Kings. The last time I fished Kingsmead was for a live with Dovey like 6 years ago, and we
Wow.
fished for a night. And I think, if I remember rightly, Dovey caught like a £10 common, which is not like Kingsmead. It's full of
Mm.
absolute whackers. So I was
Yeah.
able to sort of amalgamate the two, have a bit of my own fishing on a venue that I really want to fish, and filmed it. Yeah, and had a right result. That's on the RG page now. I think I struggled, caught a load of massive, whopping great bream, huge bream I caught. Then caught a stocky that was probably the smallest fish in Kingsmead, and then had a 40 pounder and a 30 pounder on the last morning. So yeah, happy days. So I've managed to sort of bring in more of my own fishing, a bit amalgamated with camera work, a bit on my own. But as things have moved family wise, there's a bit more free play in that.
Okay, but and so in terms of you've just mentioned there about RG. I know I've known Greg for years, absolute top guy and a
Legend,
superb
yeah.
bait as well. But in terms of brands, are you linked? Are you sponsored by part of a team of brands? So in terms of the rods you use, reels you use, your fishing gear.
So obviously at Nash, I was, but we're in a very fortunate position at Capital. We got Capital Angling, which is obviously the shop, so we supply everything. So pretty much whatever I use is whatever I want to use. So I'm very lucky in that regard. With regards to tackle, end tackle, rods, reels, lines, all that, whatever I want to use. So I'm not tied to any particular brand or whatever. Don't get me wrong, if I've caught something using a particular brand of tackle, I will say it.
Right.
But
Okay.
unlike other positions or individuals, like, you can use whatever you want, so it's fantastic, complete freedom. And then on the bait side, I've never been a proper, how can you say, bait head, or really sort of gone down the rabbit hole of looking into it. If a bait works and I'm happy with it and it's catching me fish, I'm happy. I don't need any more chat about pre-digestive proteins and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, in terms of bait, I use RG now, as it's one of our companies. And currently I've pretty much used our new test bait and a few of the other products. And it's been nice using sort of different bait, if you like, and knowing Greg and where it's come from, that sort of heritage sort of, he loves it, mate. He just, when somebody just loves, and I've spoke to loads of bait experts, from Keith Sykes through to Kev Knight through to whoever, and they love what they do, and there's a real sort of passion and sort of
Yeah.
enthusiasm in it, and that's him. He's like the most likable Yorkshire bloke. I remember him coming in and getting RG into Angling Direct, and now being here, it's like a weird symmetry and circle. But he loves it. He understands all that sort of science. I pretty much put my faith in him and use whatever's there, and so far it's served me well, mate. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole of craziness. I'll let him do it
No,
for me.
it is. I mean, I've actually I've been to the factory a couple of times and watched the production and stuff. In fact, I want to get Greg on here one month to sort of talk all things bait, because as you say, the bait side of things, they do seem really. It's a real passionate.
Oh, it's got to be.
Everything's committed of what goes into it, isn't it?
It's got to be. When you look at, like, I speak to him all the time, literally daily, when we talk about sort of media and stuff and all that stuff. But like, where it's come from, like, you have to have that passion to drive it through. He's literally come from being passionate about bait, catching carp, wanting to do the best by a select few around him, and then developing that into a business, but never sacrificing that quality aspect. And us coming on board haven't sacrificed that either, in terms of, we've basically given him the keys to the toy set and said, look, you can get ingredients that you probably couldn't have afforded before. So that for him, like, he's really like infused by it, but also like that core value that he's got and the likability of him and the sort
Yeah.
of sincerity of it all is sort of retained in him. So yeah, man, like, you've got to be passionate. He survived that whole sort of people. There was loads of
Mm.
people at one stage rolling bait sort of ad
Oh,
hoc
yeah,
everywhere. So to
yeah.
come through all that and be successful, like, testament to him, the bait and everything, mate. Top work.
So I'm presuming that the recent rebrand then was when you got involved with him, and that's what the rebrand was about.
Yeah, so I think realistically, like, we came on board. Pictures and tech chatted to him in and around RG. I think Greg, and he'll talk to us. It's not me to say, but he'd got to where he could do. and he needed some investment to sort of maybe push on and look at sort of the development of things. Great team of anglers, fantastic anglers. Like, you've only got to look at the imagery and stuff on Instagram, the stuff on Facebook, like the anglers that are associated with it. Unbelievable. Tom Denton, Liam Giggle, they're absolutely smashing everywhere they fish.
Yeah.
Those lads, like, have very much been at the core from day one. And Mark and Tech spoke to him, really liked the brand. Obviously, Mark had a big move in terms of away from CC Moores and stakes in different pies, but had the trust and faith in Greg and the brand. Kept Greg with us because we want Greg to lead it. That's what it's about. That is the brand. And then from there, we've now with Greg rebranded in terms of the packaging's changed. Things are looking different. We've got a line of new product that before couldn't really be brought to market. We've got a new test bait, and because of the volume and the type of ingredients we're now purchasing, things have scaled up across the board.
Yeah.
And Greg will be the first person to sort of to tell you that when you get him on. So yeah, it's really good, and you can see that excitement in somebody that sort of almost has a new lease of life. Do you know what I mean? In terms of there's potential to do a lot.
Yeah, I remember I've still got a tub of the Arctic crab.
Yeah, yeah,
And I remember I was over in France a couple of years ago when I first cracked it open, and I had to leave it in a plastic bag 20 meters away from the bivvy because it absolutely stunk. But yeah, it is a good high quality bait. In terms of you say you can use pretty much any tackle that you takes your
yeah,
fancy. So
yeah.
right now, what's your go-to rods, reels, bivvies,
My
bite alarms?
yeah. So from Bivy and Bedshare, Nash, I've got a Titan Hide. I've got a compact because I'm absolutely tiny. Bedshare, like a little boy's bedshare, mate. But it's light. It gets me around. Happy day. So yeah, absolutely solid. Use them brilliantly. In terms of like bankware, Jag. I use Jag bankware. I've got the 2+1s. Some RX Plus alarms. Platinums are probably what I use 90% of the times. 12 foot, 3.5 pound test cabs, although I have got some 13 footers for Zyarchy where we're going and having to chuck a bit. DX Bezier reels. And then in amongst that, yeah, like terminal tackles, a mix of like everybody does good
Right.
stuff. It's personal
Yeah.
preference, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like yeah, it ranges from Corda through to Fox, a bit of ESP. It's got a bit of everything in there. Do you know what I mean? It's really nice to sort of do that and cherry pick sort of what you think are the best bits in terms of
Yeah.
that. Like, as I said, I've got everything from Nash gear through to Corda gear through to Fox gear, and you're not having to sort of sacrifice in terms of what your preferences are, which is refreshing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a fortunate position, isn't it, not to have to
Okay.
just stay with one brand. I take it when you was at Nash, did you use any of the scope range? Have you used the shorter rods?
Brilliant, mate. I've still got a set of Black Ops with me. Like, they're unbelievable, brilliant. I use a lot of shorter rods. Still do in a lot of my fishing. To be fair, not just my carp fishing. Like, we've got capital catch competitions, which is like specimen, like all the other side of fishing that's not carp fishing. I get to go and do a bit there. So my pike fishing is all on sort of 10 foot scopes. All that sort of short rod game definitely comes into it. We've been out, me and Mark went out to Carper and fishing from boats, 10 foot rods, anything where a shorter rod, whether it be margin fishing, boat fishing, whatever it is, yeah, definitely. Like, I couldn't be anywhere without a set of scopes, especially the amount of different situations you find yourself in when you're fishing. They're definitely useful rather than clunking around a 12, 13 footer in a boat or something.
And in terms of, I know on Capital there's always a lot of the prizes like bait boats, but certainly the RT's boats,
Yeah.
cart lounge. Do you use a lot of tech yourself?
I'm
Are
not
you an advocate of it?
I'm an advocate that you can do what you want. Wherever you draw the line personally, you do whatever you want. I know it sounds so political and so boring, but genuinely, that's how I feel. If I owned a lake, I'd leave it open for people to use tech if they want to use tech. I think from a personal angling point of view, I still can't. I definitely use bait boats where I need to. I don't feel any qualms in using them. And I think if you're fishing them on a fishery where people are using them, it is very hard to compete sometimes. However, I think for me, I definitely take a lot more pleasure in casting finding a spot, feeling a drop. I definitely feel a lot more. Yeah, I think it is, I'd say, pleasure, a lot more satisfaction in that process rather than driving a bait boat out. But at the end of the day, I think with me, I'd rather go drive a bait boat out and catch one, because invariably I'm doing it whatever, than not.
Absolutely. So, what about the use of? I mean, obviously, you must use the drones in terms of your filming. What about in terms of using them for fishing? There's a lot of negativity. I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of places that they're banned anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we're
I don't think it will be long before we've got drones that drop rigs. I know there is now for sea fishing and things, but I think that development in tech is definitely coming. We went through the winch camera phase. We went through all that. We went through boats now with unbelievable echoes, and you can literally see the carp that you're targeting.
yeah.
So I think that technology is definitely coming. I think the use of the drone, if I'm honest, and this is no, I'm not going to say BS, but no joke. I can't say I've used a drone to find carp at all. I think the drone's been
Okay.
up when we're filming, and don't get me wrong, when we've seen them,
Yeah.
like if they have been seen, I've definitely moved on to them. But I've never been to a venue, stuck a drone up to try and find the fish straight away. Like that's never happened. We've
Mm,
gone with generally sort of either an area that somebody suggested where fish have come from, or we've gone from where we've seen shows or activity,
yeah.
and then normally that sort of next morning when the videographer's doing his sort of drone pan at sunrise, it might be that he laps and he has a little look, and then we move on to him, and that has definitely happened. But I think where it's allowed, and as long as it's not silly, I think I remember Samir saying something about a bloke next to him actively chasing the fish, getting the drone really low and chasing the fish off his spot. I think when it gets to that
Wow.
level, it's a bit mental. But
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
if you've got a drone and you're happy to use it and you're not in breach of any rules and you're happy with that, you're not interfering with another angler or messing anything up, go for your life, crack on. But I think, yeah, I would definitely use one ahead of sort of if I'm mid session and there's scenics and it's already up there and they just lap the lake on the way back. I'll
Yeah.
take it. I'll take that information. But yeah, it's where you draw the line, I think. And also, in a horrible way, and again, it sounds a bit, but if you're out there filming, you've got a lot of finance behind that, and sometimes those little nuggets of information are the difference between that finance paying off and you
Yeah.
being however many grand down.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example of that recently was Danny Fairbrass with the underwater, when like he got quite emotional, didn't he, about the time and everybody's time, the money that was invested, and they didn't get a bite, and you could see that genuine emotion that it just didn't go right, and as you say, whatever edge, we all talk about edges in carp fishing.
Yeah.
Um, so, in terms of your actual fishing, you said you've got some UK waters that you prefer and you like to fish. What about European stuff? Do you go over? Do you head over to France, Belgium, Holland, anywhere, places like that
Mate,
often? Or
I've been so lucky, mate. Like it's all been work fishing. Like before that, I'd done the classic sort of mates trip to France. Like I think I made stag do in France, to be fair, at Valley Lakes. But I've been to like
wow,
complexes and your usual sort of your Abbey Lakes, your Valley Lakes, Dream Lakes, the likes of, and I've
yeah,
loved them. I've loved those trips. Very much like UK angling, but in France with slightly bigger fish, but pressured, like very similar. I've sort of done the other stuff since moving to Capital. Me and Mark have been to Carper, which I suppose is pretty English fishing in terms of a complex, but brilliant and beautiful. But I've done sort of French canals and rivers with Henry, went out the year before. Believable session, like completely. I don't know, maybe I just had perceptions of sort of what UK canal and river fishing was like, but over there, just a completely different ball game. Like gin clear, weedy canals, dropping little traps in, catching like 30, 40 pounders out of a canal you can jump across, and just having all that freedom and space. Amazing. We're going to launch a video very soon. Me and Mark went over to Bulgaria, of all places.
oh right,
Um, to a place called Ruin Lake, and
mm,
I can genuinely say, or can I genuinely say, carp fishing, the greatest 4 nights, 4 days that we were there I've ever had.
Wow.
Even now, like, no word of a lie, goosebumps. That good. Like, incredible fishing, loads of big carp, the best time. And I think when you work in fishing, you are very fortunate to fish incredible places.
Mm.
And a lot of the times places are very hyped up. But we went to a place that was not hyped up. We went to a place that was pretty much untapped in terms of fishing potential. A country that's really not that sort of prestigious, if you like, for massive carp.
Yeah.
Boy, we had an absolute tear up. Yeah, don't miss that video. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable fishing. Unbelievable.
Did you drive over?
No, so we flew. So we
Right.
flew.
Okay.
We sent stuff out. We sent bait out. We sent stuff out before. The guy who owns it, Dimitar, works for Toslon Bait Boats, so he's the
Yeah.
main man. So he's got a real extensive network across Europe. So we got RG out there. We got Kit out there, and then we pretty much fished. I think we fished for 3 nights. I'm gonna say. But location-wise, stunning in the mountains, massive forest all the way around it. Fishing-wise, just blew every expectation you could possibly have out the water. So many big uns, like mega clean fish, like, yeah, unbelievable. Boat battles, like you couldn't want any more. Like, it was mad. But yeah, I'll leave that to the video because I can't say too much. But
Yeah.
definitely
Obviously.
one to watch, mate.
Yeah. Sounds really exciting. In terms of so if we look at, say, France, the big waters, the Cassian, Shanty, Parlut, places like, have you done all those? Are you a big water angler, or?
No, not at all. I have turned down 2 trips on Rainbow. I
Wow.
have I was meant to go to Bled with Nash, but I basically one of my children was born, so I couldn't go to that. Obviously, not that that's a negative. Brilliant that my
I was
child
going
was
to say,
born.
how inconsiderate was your wife
Yeah,
there?
timing that is. Um, but no, I can't. The one thing I haven't done is one of those sort of history
Mm,
European venues, as you say, your shanties, the likes of. I haven't done them. Rainbow, the 2 trips coincided pretty timing wise, not in a great time, which was unfortunate. But I'd love to do it. I know it's very unique, and I think everybody who spoke to me that's fished it has said once you go to Rainbow, it's hard to sort of feel that same buzz or whatever. You get addicted. So
yeah.
maybe that was for the better. I think there's definitely plans to go to Cassian just because it's Cassian. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know, I'm 40 now, so I don't know if it's just my sort of generation or that ilk, but Cassian sort of really resonates with me for some reason. As does Rainbow, to be fair. I've seen Moz's coverage of it and it looks mental. And I've spoke to Paisley and the likes of about it, and they rave about it. So I think, yeah, they're 2 that I'd like to tick off as sort of destinations. But to be honest, I know this sounds a bit weird, but like I quite like the thought of sort of further afield stuff that's maybe less
Yeah.
explored, bit of a punt. Do you know what I mean? I'm very much like that about a few venues back home of like I've been so fortunate to speak to the people that have fished those venues at the time.
Mm.
Then to go there now, I don't want to feel disappointed or by it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that
Yeah.
seems like
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I mean, again, if you went to Cassien now, even Shanty now, they are not the lakes that
mm,
they were back in the 80s and even the 90s. Things have changed, and I've been invited to go back to places like that, and they just don't appeal to me now. I much prefer the canals now, like Belgium, Holland, Park Lakes in France. I've fished a few of those, and they have much more of appeal. A 30-acre park lake has more appeal than a 600-acre public
yeah,
water somewhere in France, or obviously bigger on the bigger waters. You say about Rainbow. It's funny because I know Reedy from
yeah, good
Nash
old really would.
absolutely loves the place.
Yeah,
But I'm sure Greg from RG, I'm sure Greg
Greg's
was,
been. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
video on
he's
RG. I
been a
think one
few
of the first
times on it.
videos. Yeah, I think one of
Yeah.
the first videos on the RG Baits YouTube channel is Greg at Rainbow. it looks mega. Like it just looks beautiful, doesn't it? Like the place looks beautiful. It looks like it has that sort of, I don't know, that sort of atmosphere. You can see how it captivates people. But I saw Reedy when I was at Nash, obviously before Rainbow and after Rainbow, the tackle, the sort of
Ah,
real specifics.
yeah,
Like that ain't like I could go now with whatever I've got in the lockup and sort of here to sort of a public venue in France and be
yeah,
fine. I
yeah.
wouldn't feel like I'm out of my depth. Yes, I need a few spares or I need a. But Rainbow's like a whole different. It's not even like carp fishing. It's like warfare. It's just mad, like a hook, like leads like you wouldn't believe, like agricultural, like lead core hook lengths. Like you
Yeah.
don't do that in many places.
No, and I mean it's like um, for people who know what the washing line technique is. I mean it's like the washing line technique and some, isn't it? I mean it is. I remember Greg actually. I'm sure it was Greg who actually came and did a talk to one of the Army Carp competitive matches and
Right.
spoke about and did a slideshow about Rainbow. And just brought some of the gear along, the specific gear that they use to keep the lines out of water. Just
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole different experience, isn't it?
It is iconic though, isn't it? Like I think I remember seeing, I think it was Crowe and his vlogs, and he caught Eric's comment, and I remember just distinctly like the visual of like him in a boat, mist, rod bent double, little float, a yellow like float just going round, and then this absolute creature coming out, like unbelievable stuff. But I'd have to get better in a boat because I'm absolutely terrible in a boat. Pictures will tell you.
You, I'm surprised you didn't get lessons off Briggsy. He's an absolute expert
Oh,
in a boat.
I feel like embarrassed. Do you know what I mean? Because like they're
Yeah,
literally like him, like Samir, and like majority of the lads at Nash, Tom Foreman. Like it's like
yeah,
second nature. It's like
yeah,
going for a drive. But like you go out there, like don't get me wrong, if it's calm, I'm absolutely fine. But when it's on those waters, when it starts kicking off and there's a bit of wind and you've got to stabilise yourself, drop on a little spot, get back in a straight line. I'm going back like that. I like everything.
yeah, absolutely.
Then
So
like
is carp fishing the only fishing you do? Is that what you are you a carp angler, or would you say you're a bit more multi-species?
Yeah, I do a lot. I enjoy every type of fishing, like, but in terms of consistency and doing it long term, and I've fished now, bloody hell, I've fished now for like over 25 years. It's a long time, but winters, I definitely do a lot more other species. I love my pike fishing. I love my perch fishing. I love going trotting on a river, but I wouldn't do that consistently through the year. I think carp fishing is my main sort of bag. If you give me a day left to live on the planet and said you can go fishing for one day and it's your last, I'd go carp fishing. But at the same time, I think I'll always be like an angler in terms of I enjoy having a break, going to fish for another species, and then coming back to it refreshed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially we've all done it. Those sort of autumn, winter months where you might have a target water, it might be relatively slow. You might be fishing for a specific target or something like that, and that helps break up and keep that buzz. I find. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? You see Ollie do it with his barbel. You see a lot of people do it, like even Terry, like does it with like perch and
Mm,
other species.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think it's good. I think also it definitely I definitely see that difference in terms of, and I'm generalising here, so forgive me, but the new generation, a lot of it is carp, 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 and the other skill sets from fishing for other species definitely benefit your carp fishing as well.
Yeah, I do see that. I mean, you see that on social media. I mean, everybody now wants, a runs water with 50s in, and, before they've even caught a £10 sort of, carp themselves. But in terms of your fishing ability, are you kind of quite a technical angler? Do you spend a lot of time like with your rigs and, the technical, critically balancing things, or are you just, you know, get it out there and
Pretty, I'm
get on
pretty
the
sick. I think,
fish?
yeah, I think anybody who's done it for a long enough time, you sort of find your cadence or your. I wouldn't say I've got any outstanding. I'm not Terry Earn or anything like that. I'm not Daryl Peck or anything like that. But I think you sort of find what generally works for you. I think definitely for me is being on the fish in terms of I'm happy to move more than anything. I'm not a camp, put a load out and sit there. That's never been me. I've never been sort of that long wait for a payout angler. I get too
Right.
impatient. I get, again, it's that coasting feeling of just sitting
Yeah.
in a swim and rotting. I can't do that. And I'd love to be that angler, because I know it would have caught me so many more big uns, because people have gone in after and done 2 days and then caught the big un, or that sort of thing. But that's never been in me. I tend to overfish, which I've tried to calm down, as in move too many times or do too much rather than do too little and just wait it out. So
Right.
that's definitely a feature of sort of my personality and my angling. But I think for me, it's just knowing the things that works. Like I literally fish a slip D rig on the bottom. I fish a spinner rig, or if it's really, really bad, I might fish a hinge. Other than that, leg clips, a zig, surface fishing, occasionally a solid bag, and I don't differentiate from any of that. And
Right.
whatever is gonna be the sort of deciding factor is normally the baiting. I'm more keen now on sort of thinking about baiting, whether that be accuracy or whether that be just the amount on a spot, or how that's baited, or ingredients. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to, well, whether it's a single ingredient or whether you're
Yeah.
you're fishing a mix, whether you're baiting similar to how everybody's baiting, what times you're baiting, when's bite time, those important things. But paramount, and it definitely has always been a thing for a very long time, is location. Like, I've fished a lot of venues that are busy, so your bluebells, your syndicates where people are in swims, and location can sometimes be quite a frustration. You can't move, and you're trying to maximise a swim where there's not carp present, and you sort of, sometimes you sort of know, you get that feeling where the fish aren't there, so you ain't going to catch them. So as much as possible,
Yeah.
I try not to put myself in that situation where I haven't got something to fish for. Do you know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
dangerous. Like, it's a dangerous precedent, because you get people say, like, you know what I mean. Nowadays, you see people around the lake and they're like 16 wraps from this spot, mate. You've got like loads of them fizzing at like 10 wraps, and you think, well, no, the angler in me is saying I'm going to fish for those fizzers. I'm not
Yeah.
going to fish for the spot. So I think that in my angling, in terms of moving, I think simple like rigs, components that work, a lot more emphasis on baiting how I bait, and sort of understanding. I think most venues, you have like a cycle of sort of carp in terms of how they're being fished for, what's working, and sometimes, don't get me wrong, understanding that and falling in line, but a lot of the time
Yeah.
just being different.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
went through a
Just
spell. I'll give you a clear example. I went through a spell of like really like baiting, as in like not in the spring because it's not needed, but sort of summer and then autumn, really like going out there and fishing, like putting a bucket out and fishing over the top. And don't get me wrong, I caught, but then I was on a water where you saw a lot of people doing exactly the same thing. A bucket would go out on a spot, they would fish. It might be the second night, it might be the second day that you'd get action.
yeah.
And I found, just by fishing literally over 3 spots, the same spots, not changing the spots, but just literally changing the baiting, you would pick up 4 bites instead of 2, because you would just hit those fish early doors, and everybody else very much sort of the same mentality, and it did work. But just sort of changing things very slightly on a theme that's working, still baiting at the same time, still getting the rods set for when bite time would be, but just having these sort of, don't know, that sort of ability to be able to see things and experiment a bit. But yeah, I
Mm.
think that's very much my angling. I wouldn't say I'm a proficient distance caster. I wouldn't say I'm an incredible surface angler. I wouldn't say I have any sort of outstanding top 10 attributes. I'd just say you've done it for a long period of time. You know what
Yeah.
works for you.
So you wouldn't sort of look at, you've never done tutorials, offered tutorials and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
100%. I've done tutorials in the past or done whatever in terms of that, but it's fishing. Like, coming from like a sort of a, and this is going to sound a bit derogatory, but coming from like a sporting background where you see the difference between an elite athlete and an athlete that is sub elite. Do you know what I mean? In
Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
of just general like genetic ability, training, proficiency, we've all been in a situation where you know the game, you know what you're doing, you know it works. Somebody rocks up next to you and just fishes like an absolute nightmare, and then they'll catch a 40 pounder and you'll catch nothing.
Yeah.
There's so many variables that you can't control, that yes, you can be proficient at it, you can catch big uns and you can do really well, but ultimately fishing still has that ability that the bloke next to you who's never fished before could come rock up and
Yeah.
absolutely make you look a mush.
Yeah, it happens more often than we want to think about. Um, what about campaigns? Are you do you have time to sort of do campaigns? Is campaigns not really your thing? Do you go to a
I think,
venue and target a
yeah,
specific fish?
I think I'd love the time to do it. Historically, I think a lot of my fishing, sort of, especially coming from Leicester, where there weren't many big fish, was all that type of fishing. We were fishing for literally a big un in amongst a lot of other fish on generally smaller venues. So a lot of my fishing was that. But I think now I've definitely got a water with a couple of real gems in that I would love the ability to target. And I would say that I'm baiting areas that I know they come from, but I can't say that I'm targeting them specifically. I will take a bite. Do you know what I mean? I've not got the time to do it. If one of them turns up and I'm fishing in the zones where they do turn up at that time of year and have done, brilliant. But I'm not out and out targeting them. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like putting the time in to
Yeah,
actually have sightings of them, to be there, to sort of go off absolutely anything. I'm not there consistently enough to do that. I literally put bait in areas that they've come from as well as other areas, and wherever I can drop onto to get a bite, I'll take it, and hopefully they'll turn up. The water itself has got two real big ones, but it's also got some great backup stock, so I'm lucky in that sense. Raisbury, again, I was fortunate enough to catch the big one, and that didn't come from any form of campaign. That came through fishing a
oh,
spot that was literally the spot where I saw a couple of fish show. I've set up on dark and it happened. So no, if they come, they come at the moment.
brilliant. So listen, Hassan, it's been fascinating talking with you. There's so much more we can discuss, and hopefully you'll agree to come back a second time. Um,
Yeah, of course, mate. It's
it's
been a pleasure.
yeah, I found it really. It's such a different way into doing what you do now, and and not being just a pro angler. The work you've done in the industry. I mean, it's there's hope for everybody with that
Exactly.
sort of
You
way
can
in. You
be a
know.
talentless mug like me and still get there. So keep trying. No, no, but you can. Like, I'm not downplaying it. Like, as I said, like I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know anything. I certainly didn't know social media because of timing, because of opportunity, because of circumstance. And I'll give myself the fact that I've worked hard because I have done a lot of
Yeah,
hours, done a lot of traveling, done a lot of that. That you can get a lot of places with that. So, like anybody out there who wants a career in fishing, that's what you got to do. Just apply yourself and you'll get there 100%. It's a very, very open, very sort of friendly, welcoming industry. Yeah, and especially now, there's so many routes into it. There's your social media presence. There's the skill set that every company needs, whether that be design, whether that be CAD, whether that be I don't know SEO, whether that there's so many different routes into companies nowadays that there's a lot more opportunity. And yeah, if you want it enough, it'll happen. I'm sure.
yeah. No, it's been a fascinating insight to your life in front of and behind the cameras, really, in the whole of the industry. Hopefully, the next couple of days, you'll get my envelope that gets me the date with the black tranny, and
What, the van, mate, or the other?
either, not
Yeah,
first.
nice, nice. I like it. I like it. Very open. That's good.
And yeah, brilliant. And I say, hopefully, we'll get back in a couple of months and have another catch up um, with what you've been up to.
Mate, you're a star. I'll definitely agree to a part two. No dramas, and thank everybody for watching, listening, or doing what you're doing. Yeah, big love, and if you're getting out, good luck. Hope you catch a few.
Cheers, Hassan.
Cheers, mate.